break. My name is Christophe, consultant at Forgestic, and today I'm replacing Mike Taylor, who is finalizing a few projects. So over the last few weeks, I've had a chance to test the new version 9.3, and I really like what I saw. We have a few new functionalities and many improvements to existing functionalities, and some of them are very interesting. So let's go and see the plan. Okay. So today is the first of 3 webinars on version 9.3. Today we will cover the administration section as well as the sales, purchase, and services. And in the next 2 sessions, we will cover financial management, project management, MRP, inventory and distribution, CRM, and we'll have a very quick overview of the platform and extensibility as well as the lifecycle management. So if you have any question regarding the topic we are covering, do not hesitate to ask me, or you can also write it down in the chat box that Tracy will follow. And we will refer to the What's New documentation that you can see right now. It will be our presentation plan for today. So let's start with the import from Excel. Okay. So there's a difference between the copy paste from Excel and the import from Excel. Okay, if we want to create, let's say, a journal entry, and we want to create the header manually with the dates and the journal remark, we can simply use copy paste for the lines, and we will have an Excel file that looks like this with just 4 columns, the GL account, debit credit actually. But if we want to import the whole journal entry using an Excel file, we can do it as well. And we will have a file that contains the header with all the required information as well as the 2 lines, or 2 or actually more than that. Let's see in SAP what it will look like. Okay. So we have that new button here, import from Excel. And when I click on it, it opens a new window in which we can see the structure that SAP will need from the Excel file. So this is exactly the same structure as what we've seen in the previous screenshot. And we just need to double click on the 3 dots and it will import the file and just create our journal entry. We also have the same feature for the opening balance and the import of batches and serial number. So same thing for the batches. If we want to do let's say a goods receipt or an inventory, or let's say a goods receipt PO, and we have many batches to import, we could use that Excel template. Okay. So that that import from Excel feature, it completes very well the copy paste as well as for the journal entry, the posting template and recurring posting. Now let's have a look at the user group. So the user group is very useful to create a new user and associate it to the right authorization. Okay, let's say that you have 20 users, a company. So eventually it will be hard to see who is allowed to do what in the system. So you might want to use the user group. In SAP, under Administration, Setup, General, User Group. Okay, so we used to have the user groups before. Now what we have in addition is that we can also create user groups for alerts. So instead of linking every salesperson, actually every user in SAP to an alert, we can just create a group for the people in the finance or in the inventory and just link to the alerts to those groups. We can do the same also for the form settings. We know that when we create a new user, it can take a long time to make the columns in the right place. We might want to add some or hide some, and using the form settings user group can save a lot of time. And we have also the way of creating new UI configuration templates. I would not recommend this option for now though, because we've seen in the past that it's not very robust, not very strong, but all the other functions, authorizations, alerts, and for settings are a very great improvement. Okay, and so actually, how can we create a user group form settings? We just need to do it properly for one user or many users if you want to create more than one user group. And then we will copy from the user setup window, we will copy the form settings to a group of form settings. Okay. Now, let's have a look at the approval process. So let's say that we have the sales order that are part of the approval process. So whenever someone is creating a sales order, it goes through the approval process and someone, an authorizer, needs to authorize it. Now, what is good with 9.3 is we have the ability, whenever the approval request was sent to the authorizer, we have the option to still modify the document. And even if the document was approved, we can still do a modification of it, and it will resend to the authorizer, it will resend a request for approval. And so to activate this, we need to go to Administration, System Initialization, General Settings, and in the Business Partner tab, we have those two configurations that we need to activate. Okay, so that offers a lot more flexibility in the approval process. Okay, we have discussed about copying the form settings. Now we have a new features called My Settings Support. And this is a great improvement. It will simplify a lot the user's interface per user. So we have in SAP a new icon called My Personal Settings. When we click on it, it opens the user setup window. So we've seen that window before, we know it. But before we've had very few information. We've had the name, the phone number, the email, and so on. If we wanted to do any changes in the update message or in the screen locking time, we had to go in the general settings, and we might not want to give access to the general settings to some users. If we wanted to change, let's say, the font or the font size, we had once again to grant access to the general settings or to create a user's default. So sometimes we had to create a user default just for one user. So now we have the ability, like those options are still there in the general settings, but now we have the option to override it into the user setup, and it's accessible from one click to the users. So it offers more flexibility, and it provides a much better understanding of what applies to the company and what applies to the users also. Okay. The next topic is enhancement of GL account determination. So if we go to Administration, Setup, Financial, and GL account determination. Okay, so we know that in SAP, we can set up the GL account determination per warehouse or per item group or even at the item level. We have also the option of creating advanced GL account determination rules. Now, so let's say if I was selling any item group from warehouse code 0 to T in the USA, in the ship to country USA, I would want to have the revenue account 4120 to be posted. And if I was doing the same transaction but with a ship to country in Canada, I would want to have the revenue account 4110. So those criteria that we have, they are managed in that window, determination criteria, inventory. And now what we have more in 9.3 is that in addition to the fields we've had before, we can manage those matrix of possible options. We can manage them by UDF. So we could create a UDF, a new user-defined field at the business partner level, or at the marketing document level, or at the item level, and that would be the trigger to post a revenue account. Okay. We also have a new feature that is the Changelog Cleanup utility. Under Administration, Utilities, the Changelog Cleanup. So that is something that you might want to keep to the super user of your SAP. Basically, what happens is over the time, you know, in SAP, every object has a history as a log. For instance, OCRD, the table for the business partner, whenever we do a change, I'll just finish and then I will answer a question. Whenever we have a change, let's say in the business partner, it records a record actually in ACRD table. So after a few years, those tables can grow up and it can have an impact on the performance. So you might want, at a certain time, you might want to say, okay, we will clear all the history up until 2 years or 3 years ago, and it will clean up, it will free up some space. Now, you might want to verify with auditors if this is recommended to do that, and also you really might want to take a backup of the database. So you can still open a ticket to Forgestic, and we will do it for you. Just in case we need to refer to that backup down the road, it will be there. We had a question.
Yeah, Leonard's asking us if version 9.2 works with Visual Studio 2017.
Visual Studio.
2000.
I have it on my. Okay, I will have to get back to you about this.
Yeah. And Leonard, we'll look into it. I've got your email. I'll have him send you your reply, okay?
Okay. Actually, I will get back to you with the matrix of compatibility. It will be specified. Okay. So let's go to the next topic, which is okay, workflow enhancement. Nothing much to say about this, except that the workflows now are supported with the 64-byte DI API. If you guys have clients in 64 bytes. Quick copy enhancement. So quick copy is a very interesting tool that is used to copy, let's say, queries or forms, PLD, UDFs, and user-defined table from one database to another one. Okay, for instance, we could develop something in a test database and make it, then when we want to copy it over the production database, instead of redoing the work manually, we can use quick copy. And we have two great enhancements. The first one is that we can copy directly from one company to another one, instead of creating a file that will next be imported into the target database. It will be only one step, direct. And the other great feature is that we can now copy even when we have some connections in the target database. So what it means is that even during the day, if we have some people working, we can push this information and it will save us a lot of time. Okay. History for block negative inventory. Nothing much to say about this except that we have the option to allow or not to go into negative inventory. Okay, and the configuration is there. So what we have now in 9.3 is that whenever we change that configuration, it will keep a record in the database, and we can see that changes in the changelog. So usually that feature should not be changed very often. We leave it on or we leave it off. But if there is any change about this, it will be it will be able to see who does the changes and when it was done. So it actually provides an additional control over the changes in the basic configuration. And finally, in the administration topic, we have now the option to have an SMTP configuration per company instead of having just one per installation. We have a question about the workflows. If we have some people that can provide a training, the answer is yes. We have a few consultants that are very good with the workflow. You could get in touch with Tracy or just send an email to our support, and we will make the link with someone that can help you.
Yeah, Leonard, actually, if you send me an email after this, I'll try and find someone, but see, the webinars that we're covering for the next 2 weeks are on 9.3, but we're going into alerts, and workflow is actually going to be a presentation that we're going to have in 1, 2, and 3 presentations. But if you just give me a shout, I'll get someone on that for you. Okay, Leonard? Okay, Christophe, I'm all right.
Good. Okay, perfect. So now let's talk about the sales, purchasing, and service. The first feature is the blanket agreement. So we know that a blanket agreement is a long-term agreement with a customer or a vendor, and we can have 2 types of agreement. First agreement is generic. Let's open one. Okay. So general. So we can have a general agreement in which over a period of time, we will commit ourselves in a certain number of amount of sales or purchasing. And we can have also a blanket agreement of a specific type. That is, we commit ourselves to buying a certain number of items at a given price. Okay, so what we have now, what we have more in 9.3 about the blanket agreement, we can have a payment term and a payment method. We can have a shipping type, and also we can have, if the vendor is in a foreign currency, we can have a fixed exchange rate on this blanket agreement. Okay, so a few interesting new features. And okay, we can also block or provide warnings when the quantity amount exceeds planned quantity for the documents. Okay, and I believe this is a setup. This also, now when we have a new blanket agreement, okay, let's say that I'm having a blanket agreement for microchip, okay, and let's say that it would be approved, not in draft. If I create a sales order for that customer, for that item, it will automatically create a link between the sales order and the blanket agreement. So this is that price that will be in the sales order. So what else new we have? Okay, we have also the transaction in aging and purchases sales analysis can be grouped. So we have a group by blanket agreement in a sales analysis report. And also the blanket agreements are now incorporated into the approval process. So it can follow exactly the same process as the sales order, the invoices, and every other document that we can add in the approval process.
Hey guys, I just want to specify that if any of you don't use blanket agreements right now, I have a web session that we did entirely on blanket agreements. So if you want to send me, if somebody wants to see that, because the new blanket agreement has a lot of new options and features in it. But if you want to see what the basic blanket agreement did before these new things, just send me a quick email and I'll be able to share the web session with you.
Good. Okay, campaign management. So we have a few new features in the campaign management. Okay. I have here a campaign that I created, not manually, but using the generation wizard. So what is a campaign? A campaign is, let's say that we're having some promo for May 2018, and I want to get in touch with a few customers. So what I'll do is I will create a campaign for a few specific customers, some what we will call a target type for certain items, and what it will do is that it will create an email in which I will specify what are the promotions, and I can also add an attachment to it, and it will actually provide me some feedbacks, not automatically, but I will have the option of inputting some feedback from that campaign. So for each customers, I will be able to specify if I had any response from that customer and if the customer was interested or not. If the customer was interested, I can also specify if that campaign leads us to, let's say, an invoice or an opportunity or sales quotation, and I have the ability to attach. In that situation, I have attached an invoice to that customer. So what is good with that new option is that if I run a report, let's say campaign list, okay, so I will have a few filters. Like I could decide to see only the ones that were interested, or I could also want to see what are the new sales opportunities or what are the invoices that were derived from that campaign. And it will list a report in which I will see that for that promotions campaign, I've had three customers that were reached. Out of those 3 customers, I have only 2 that responded to me. For one of them, it provided a sales amount of $2,900 with a gross profit. And it will tell me also if it had generated any leads or opportunities and so on. So it can be very interesting to provide some feedback from the campaign. Okay, we have a brand new feature that is called Return Material Agreement, RMA. So actually, that before the goods are actually returned, the users can create a pre-step of the return document and enter the agreed upon quantities and price and the reason for the return. So and it works on both sides, the AR and the AP. I have created a return request on the AR side, and this is what it looks like, just like any other document. But we don't have any inventory movement linked to it. So I have a return of a printer, actually not a return, but a return request of one printer at this price. And it will have an impact on the ordered quantity, and I will see it in the available to promise. I will see it here on the line number 12. And also, it does not create any journal entry. I'm looking for, okay. It does not create any journal entry, of course. So when I have the customer, it could be by email or over the phone, I can just send him a form about that return request, or just tell them that this is the RMA number 1. And that RMA can also be linked to a service call if we are using any service call. And it can also be linked to the open item list report here. So we will know it could be the people from the warehouse or the finance that will be following that return request. And also, the RMA process supports serial number and batches. So it's a very great feature to manage and track the return process. Oh, and I forgot to mention, of course, when the goods are received, we can copy it into a return or AR credit memo directly. Okay. We have the option of gross price now in 9.3. So that is a new functionality that manage the price with tax included, actually. So I'm not sure if this method will be used out in Canada, but let's have a look at it. So if it is being used, that would fit probably to retail business. So first, we have to enable the configuration in administration, system initialization, and company detail. So we have here in the middle to check it as enable separate net and gross price mode, and if it is an irreversible switch. So once that we have activated, we cannot go back. The way it is managed is very simple. What we need is a gross price list. So I have a few price lists here, and if you see the price list number 7, we have the gross price column checked. So to check it, we just need to double click on the price and select the gross option here. I have an item that is linked to the gross price list at $300, tax included. I have a business partner, actually a customer, that is linked to the gross price mode, and that is linked to our new gross price list. And when we create a sales order for that customer, by default, the price mode of the document will be gross. It will still be time to override it to net now. And when we choose our printer, the net price will be $300. So we have a new gross price field here, and the system will just calculate the unit price before tax. Okay. Okay, and we will finish with the price list. Support electronic file manager bank file without the add-on, so now it is integrated in SAP. Now, about the price list, we have a new feature that is very interesting also. Okay, so let's see, let's pick up a customer. Here, we can decide if the effective price will be the default priority or the lowest price or the highest. So what is the default priority? It is the way SAP manage the prices since we know SAP. So that is, we have a hierarchy between the special price, the discount group, the period and volume discount, and the price that is linked to the price list. So what is very great with that feature is that we can now say, okay, whatever is the special price or the period and volume discount, we will want the customer to have the lowest price. Okay. And I have done a lot of tests with it. Actually, just to tell you that the blanket agreement is not affected by this feature. The blanket agreement overrides every other price in SAP. Now, I've done quite a few tests with it, and I don't know if it's a bug or if it's a feature yet, but I have noticed that the discount group still overrides the period and volume discount and the price, even if the net output would be more expensive. So I have opened a service call to SAP this week, and I will hopefully get some news soon. In a couple of weeks, hopefully I will be able to update you with that. But what is for sure is that if we don't have any discount group, it really does well the job into picking up the best price between the special price, period and volume discount, and the price linked to the price list. Okay. So that was the last topic about the sales and purchases. Do you have any questions?
I want Christophe, if you could tell us what we're going to be covering on the next session. Though, in the meantime, if anybody has any questions, there's the chat box, or
sure.
just come on out and ask. But our next session, that's on the 4th of May, that we're going to be covering part 2. What are we covering?
Okay. So we will see financial project management, and not too sure where we will stop. Maybe we'll have the time to look at the MRP and production.
Okay.
We have quite a few things to look at in the financial, but for the rest, we won't have many to look at. So, but definitely the financial management will be a very interesting topic.
Okay, good. So does anybody have any questions? If not, you've got my email there. So if anybody wants a recorded session, or if you want a document, like I said, I've got the document that explains in written what all the new things are in 9.3. And I also have the other guides. If you're on 9.1, 9.2, or 9.0, I can send you the guide that we have, that you'll have for your own version. So just send me an email if you need anything. And thank you very much, Christophe.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you, everyone.
Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.